And for those of you that have been in business for a while, it may be very clear. Although I have a strong belief that the vast majority of our staff either misunderstands what they are, misunderstands how they work, or misunderstands how to explain it. And it's pretty important to be able to make sure that we're offering people accurate information and we're doing it in an appropriate fashion. So I wanted to give you guys a rundown on that. I'm going to be general today. I'm not going to dive into a lot of company product specifics because every company's rider is different. Okay, everybody treats it a little bit differently, but there are some aspects to it that are going to be generic across the board. And so those are the things that I want you guys to be able to understand. And then we can kind of go into how to explain that to your client. Okay, is that fair? Am I fairly accurate in my speculation that there's a lot of misunderstanding around that topic? Yes. You guys ever sold an annuity with an income rider on it by yourself?
No.
Just show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Okay. All right. So that's good. Before we go into that, Randy Harvey, actually, believe it or not, had a great idea. He called me yesterday and was asking me about product specifics and then said, oh, I'm going to call the company and I'll get them to run me a quote. And I said, well, why don't you skip the call to the company and skip the call to me and call Greg Haney directly. He's in the annuity back office. His job is to do that for you. And if you guys have ever gotten an email from Greg, you'll notice that if they run you an illustration, you'll get the illustration, then you'll get an application, then you'll get a product disclosure, and then you'll get blah, 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 blah. You get about 12 attachments on every email that they send you. One attachment that I venture to guess most people don't open or don't use is what you have sitting in front of you. This to me is a very powerful tool, whether you're talking about annuities, you're talking about anything in general related to finances, more specifically taxes for your client. I would suggest strongly that you guys put this into your sales binder or whatever it is that you have. You take out a Padfolio or whatever the deal is. But this has got all sorts of fun stuff on it, and you may be looking at some of it and going, yeah, I don't even know what some of that is relating to. Okay, but if you're looking at the side that actually says, well, we both say 2017 Quick Tax Guide, so I'm looking at the one that in the top left corner says federal income tax rates. Alright, so you're walking through a suitability form that you're doing on a life insurance policy or an annuity and trying to calculate what your client's tax bracket is, and they have no idea. You ever ask people what their tax bracket is and they go, oh.
Sorry.
Well, it's going to tell you straight away. Where does their income fall? It'll give you their tax bracket, okay? Pretty slick to have. You've got personal exemption categories. You've got rates for long-term capital gains and qualified dividends. You guys probably won't get into a lot of that. We probably get some questions about IRA contributions, so it's telling you how much people can contribute. I think the thing that I would find most helpful was going to be on the back. You see down at the kind of almost halfway down, a little bit further than halfway down where it says Uniform Lifetime Table. This is how the federal government is calculating a minimum distribution for your client. Okay? So all you're doing is you take the account value. I want you guys to remember this because I'm going to give you a small little sales concept that corresponds with this part of this form right here, okay? The account value of your client's account, IRA, whether we have it or not, on December 31st of the year previous. So for 2017, we're going to be looking at account value on December 31 of 2016. And however old your client is, you take and use that number just out to the side of it and you divide that into their account value. Alright? So why is that important for you, whether you're writing annuities or not? It is a requirement in distribution, but why is that going to help you with a potential sales idea?
Well, this is how much you're going to get, but it might not be there for the rest of your life.
See
And
if
this
their
is what
money's
you get.
going too long, how long the money's going to last, or if they're going to outlive their money.
It allows you.
What about, I've got a 69-year-old person with an IRA, and you're trying to sell them life insurance. and they feel like their budget's kind of tight, right? Where are they gonna come up with the money? I don't know. Really love to have that, but I don't think I can afford it. Well, we know that the year that they turn 70 and a half, they're gonna have to start taking money out of that IRA. By having this table, you can do some quick math, and you can figure out exactly how much money they're gonna have coming in that they don't have coming in right now. In other words, an increase in cash flow for that particular client, and that's gonna persist. You notice that those numbers get smaller. What happens if a divisor gets smaller? The percentage gets bigger, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we know that at bare minimum, that's what they're gonna have to take out, and as that percentage grows, even if the value shrinks, it's gonna kind of stabilize itself. So we can bet pretty well that amount of money is gonna be coming in for them, okay? Or if you get into some higher end households, you know, if you guys are working in like the Pawleys Island area or down in Hilton Head or maybe just somewhere out in the sticks and these just people have a bunch of cash, then we start looking at estate planning concerns. They've got IRAs, and I've heard people say to me plenty of times in my career, I don't want to take the money, but Uncle Sam's going to make me take the money. Okay? So, as professionals in the financial services business, wouldn't it be interesting to say, well, if the federal government's going to force you to take it, let's put a purpose behind it. And you've got all these assets, let's call it farmland or liquid assets in a brokerage account or whatever. Maybe we need to be worrying about estate taxes. Maybe we can use this money to buy a life insurance policy or maybe even a second to die life insurance policy to help make sure that your family's got tax-free money to help offset whatever concerns there may be at the time of your passing. And we can do all that with the money that you didn't want to take. All right? Simple? Keep it in your book. Use it. Be smart people. All right?
Hey, Dan,
Hey, Norman.
could you just do, could you do an example real quick? Just kind of a real world example of how that would work?
So, I got a client that at the end of 2016, they had an IRA valued at $100,000 even. And that was the very first year that they were going to have to start taking their minimum distribution, right? So I take that 100,000, like I said, and I'm going to divide it by that corresponding divisor. It is 27.4, right? I didn't look at it, but I'm pretty sure that's the number. So we take that, and we say 100K divided by 27.4, boom. 36, 49, and 64 cents. I know that that's going to be their minimum distribution for this year. The federal government's going to have to make them take that money out. Let's just go ahead and make an assumption that they're in a 10% tax bracket. Unless your people are really rolling, most of our seniors are in a 10% tax bracket, maybe even zero. Okay? So, but I always like to discount this particular sales idea at least 10% because I want to go ahead and take after taxes into the equation. So if I multiply that by 0.9, that goes ahead and has 10% withholding to the federal government. That leaves me with $32.84 and 68 cents. So now this is my after-tax number that I know they're going to have to take. Could you put $3,200 annually to work for somebody in a life insurance policy?
Yeah.
Would you like to put $3,200 to work for somebody in a life insurance policy?
Every year it goes up.
Alright. You notice that the next year, if you go down, the next one's 26.5, right?
Right.
So the next year,
Pocket.
is it in my pocket?
No, well, your phone's not, so.
Oh, that's my calculator right now. So the next year, Norman, same idea. 26.5 turns into 3773.58. Go ahead and subtract out our 10%, leaving me with 3396.22. Quick, easy, painless. But I promise you, 98% of the people that you talk to are egregiously confused about a minimum distribution, what it is, how much it's gonna be, and then what to do about it. So if you give them a little bit of guidance and say, hey, this is what's gonna have to happen, this is the money that you said you couldn't afford to pay for that life insurance policy, or whatever it is you're trying to do for them, then let me go ahead and make that calculation for you so you can be aware of how that's gonna work for you moving forward. Is that powerful? Do you think you could readily get somebody to cough up $3,300 right now without any additional information? Probably not, right? You don't want to spend that. Do you want to spend an extra $300 a month on whatever? Probably not. So we can show people a way that it's going to happen unless they've already got that earmarked for something else. You just created a solution to whatever planning issue you were trying to offer them. All right? Simple, easy peasy. Questions? No. Income riders. What's an annuity, guys? Huh? Contract is a good word I was looking for. Contract. I'm good with contract. Annuity equals contract. I'm going to go a little step further and I'm going to go with an insurance contract. So when you hear the term rider, you guys write plenty of life insurance. We're one of the best at ASB. You guys ever use riders on your life insurance policies? Occasionally. And what does that rider represent? An additional benefit connected to the same insurance contract, right?
Yes.
So we're writing a policy on one person's life. Maybe we're attaching a spouse. Maybe we're attaching a child. Maybe we're attaching a living benefit rider, whatever, right? Additional benefit, probably has a little bit of extra cost, but not a ton, depending on what it is. And it's just wrapped into one thing, right?
Yes.
So, if we're talking about annuities, we know that annuities are designed to create income, right? So an income rider, it almost seems a little bit redundant, doesn't it?
It does seem that way.
Okay. So, in the old school forms of annuities, and annuities have gotten a bad rap over the years about this, if you wanted to create income from an annuity, you either one, just took systematic withdrawals against the account, so you're just taking money out, hoping that your growth keeps up with it, and it's just drawing that value down, right? Eventually it goes away, income stops, right? So that's not a really good long-term strategy, is it? It's kind of like that example I gave you guys the other Friday. My client said, oh, I got this money, it'll last me till I'm 80. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not good. So that's one way to take income from an annuity. Another way was to do what's called annuitize. You guys know what an annuitized contract is? So we're taking that noun and we're turning it into a verb.
Structure.
So you're executing a contract, but the thing that's most important to understand about an annuitization is that it is irrevocable. In other words, if I took $100,000 in an annuity and I annuitize that, and the company says, Dave, we'll pay you $800 a month for the rest of your life, yay, I got an $800 a month raise. So what happens if 2 years down the road I decide I want 30 grand?
You can't do anything
I
about it.
can't get it, right? It's irrevocable. I have relinquished control of the lump sum 100,000 in order to receive that asset, which is now my $800 a month until I die. Right? I'm not going to get into all the different settlement options because we could spend an entire class on that. But let's say I picked life only. Alright, so that's one settlement option. If I chose to receive $800 for life only and that was it. So the only guarantee was as long as I took breath, I was going to get $800 a month, right? What happens when I die?
Stop.
It stops.
It stops. And what if I haven't been paid out $100,000? Everybody knows this part. Tough is basically what happens. My family gets this number from the insurance company, right?
Absolutely.
So that was the old school variation of an annuity. So why do you think annuities got such a bad rap back in the day? I did a lifetime annuitization. I got clipped by a Mack truck stepping off the sidewalk 6 weeks later. I received maybe $800, maybe $1,600. The rest went with the insurance company? Come on.
It wasn't fair.
Alright. So annuity companies got smart. They said, well, we realize we have to have a better way of creating income. We know people want income for life. We need to make it so they're still able to access money if they had to. We need to make it so that the money can still grow while it stays with us so that people don't feel like they're being cheated. But we have to get some safeguards around it. So that's what an income rider is. It is an add-on to your annuity contract. Okay? And it's going to grow differently than your annuity grows. Okay? Typically we're talking about fixed index annuities in this office, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we know market goes up, we go up, market goes down, we stay flat.
Right.
Right? So how does that affect your income rider?
The same way.
It doesn't
It doesn't.
at all. Save for one company, but we'll get there in a minute. Alright? It doesn't affect it at all. You're paying a premium, you're paying money. Income riders typically have a charge. Right now, your fee on an income rider, kind of industry-wide, probably going to be somewhere between 0.75 and 1.15. Okay? That's an annual cost. It's coming right off the top of that contract, so people aren't writing checks for it. But they do have to pay for it. Okay? Because the company's got to be able to support it somehow. Be like, somebody says, well, why do I have to pay for that? It'd be like writing a life insurance policy and telling people they didn't have to pay a premium. It just doesn't work, right? So we're going to pay this fee for an additional benefit, all right? Now, that's going to create, let's call it a IAV, income account value. That's the most frequently used acronym. There are plenty of others. IAV, income account value. So this is a value, this is a numerical representation of some means that we're going to be able to create income for folks at some point down the road that has nothing to do with the market, right? Like I just said, it doesn't grow like your fixed index annuity grows. It grows on its whole different playing field, right?
Right.
So I'm going to use American Equities because we talk American Equity a lot in this office. A lot of you guys have either been involved with writing an American Equity or have done them on your own or whatever. So I'll explain to you how American Equities income rider works. All right? They're going to allow that to grow every year at 6% compounded. All right? So every single year, whatever that number is going to get bigger by 6%. So let's just say I've got 100 grand, and if we're using American Equity, we know we got a 10% bonus. So now I got 110 grand. The number that's going to be used to calculate my income is going to start at 110, and it's going to grow by 6% per year. Does that have anything to do with the market? This particular one costs 0.95%. So I'm paying 0.95% to guarantee that my income capability on my account will grow every year by 6%. Compound. Okay? So everybody in the room, this is not to embarrass anybody. I just want to make sure everybody does know. Is anybody unclear on the difference between simple interest and compounded interest? Because it's important to know.
You can let us know.
All right. Simple interest. It's easiest to use $100,000. So I'll just say 5% simple interest. 5% simple interest means that I would get $5,000 every year. Doesn't matter how big that number got. I'm starting with my initial investment, and I get 5% of that number every year. So in a simple interest equation, 100,000 one year would be 105. Next year would be 110. Next year would be 115, and so on and so on. Yes? Clear enough? So compounded interest means we're earning interest on interest. So we're earning interest on our most recent value. So in that example, 100,000 first year would be 105. Next year would be closer to 111. I'll tell you in just a second. Can't do that stuff in my head, guys. Sorry. 110, 250 would be your next year. Next year would be 115,762. Next year would be 121,550. Obviously, compounding interest grows faster, right? Because we're using the larger number to calculate our return. There are companies that do simple interest growth on income riders. Most companies are going to compound it. It is important to understand the difference, right? Clear so far?
Yes.
Okay. Fire away.
You said that they would be paying 4.9%.
Excuse me?
You said that you would pay 4.9% to guarantee a 6% compound.
No, 1.9.
4.95%.
95%.
I would not sell a 4.9% rider.
That's what I was asking you, thank you. But is that, okay, so what is that based on? Is that based upon your compounded balance?
It's based on your
Based
account
on the
value.
initial-
Account value. That's a trick question because it depends on the company. Some companies will base it on your actual cash value in your annuity, so what your annuity is actually worth. Others will base it off of the income account value. So it's important to know the difference. Both exist. I'm sorry, you did ask a trick question. Yeah, you did. All right. So we're good here, right? I know this is super exciting stuff, guys, but we gotta know it. So what do we do with that income account value number? Actually, I'm gonna give you a few of the other acronyms, all right? We had IAV. I just want you to know what you're looking at. These are the three that I see the most. IAV stands for income account value. GMWB stands for guaranteed minimum withdrawal benefit. And GLIR stands for guaranteed lifetime income rider. Okay? They're the same thing. It's all the same. Every company just wants it to look a little different.
Second one, guaranteed.
Guaranteed minimum withdrawal benefit. You'll see these on variable annuity contracts too, guys. So when you get your client to pull their statement out and you make the phone call to the carrier, most variable annuities are going to have something of this sort also on their account. It's the way they tout safety when they're talking to their clients, even though they're misrepresenting that. Okay?
And can you say?
Guaranteed lifetime income.
Guaranteed lifetime income.
You can say it.
Guaranteed.
You just did.
Lifetime.
Way to go.
All right.
Well, you want to remember it forever.
Yeah.
We get it? Get.
That's good.
So let's talk about let's get to how we calculate it, okay? So let's say that I've got an IAV at 140K, and I've got an actual. Let me erase this stuff. And let's say my actual cash value is 125K. Alright? Almost always, guys, your income account value is going to be higher than your cash value. That's the way it's designed. Otherwise, what is your client paying a premium for? I'm paying for this benefit and it's not even as good as my actual account. That's kind of silly, right? Companies design it to outperform the cash value, and that's part of the deal. Alright? So, IAV, I quite honestly, I wish that companies would start calling it an IAF. Jim Chambers could probably tell you what that means. I don't know if any of the other guys could. I like to call it an income account factor as opposed to an income account value. Because what does the word value make people think? It makes people think of money, right?
Yes.
So if I say I've got an income account value of 140, your lay person on the street thinks that they got 140 grand cash. They don't. This is not a real number. I want you guys to be very, very clear about that. This is not a real number. There is never a time, if this is the way your client's account looks, that they will ever have $140,000 in their hand. Is everybody clear about that? If they die, it's not worth 140,000, it's worth 125. If they walk away, it's not worth 140, it's worth 125. If they want to take a 10% penalty-free withdrawal, it's not of 140, it's of 125. This is the real number. This, which is why I use the term factor as opposed to value, is a factor. When you hear the word factor, what do you think of? You guys took math in school, right? Multiply. Part of an equation. Thank you very much, Sean Van Buren. A factor is part of an equation. A plus B equals C, right?
Yes.
So the income account factor, we're going to take our IAF. We can take my term here. So I got my 140K. I'm going to multiply that by my payout rate to give me my income. Fair enough? So all this figure is to get plugged into this equation. And every company's payout rates are different, as you might imagine. Every company changes their payout rates at differing times along the way. Yes, sir?
But that does change the cash value.
What?
No, it does not.
When you take income, yes it does.
Yes.
Once you take the income, it will change the
yeah.
cash value.
Sure.
Of course.
Absolutely.
And
I always tell my clients, I don't have a magic money wand and I created an income stream for you and it's not actually affecting your account balance.
Right, okay,
That's impossible.
okay.
Yes.
But,
Any,
you know-
any withdrawals are going to cause a reduction in value.
Okay, even with the IV.
Yeah. You're jumping ahead about 5 steps, so let me get there.
Excuse me,
No, you're fine. I will answer you, I'm just going to get there.
Okay.
I haven't gotten there yet. I'm
Yeah,
still calculating how to get the income.
okay,
Alright?
yeah.
Alright. So, we take our 140 grand. Let's just say that typically it corresponds with age guide. The older the client, the higher the payout rate.
Yes.
Alright? So, for whatever reason, let's just call this particular payout rate 5%. Real quick, what's that going to give me in an annual benefit? 7 grand. Okay? $140,000 times 5% gives me $7,000 a year. You want to figure out what that is on a monthly basis for your client? Just divide by 12. $583.33. Alright? Easy peasy lemon squeezy? People make this stuff too hard. It's not hard. You just gotta understand what you're looking at. Okay? We grow our income account value until such time as we're ready for income. Once we're ready for income, we multiply it by the corresponding payout rate, and it spits out a lifetime guaranteed income. Does that make sense to you, Gary?
Yeah, so that's when it stops. We'll stop at that 140, you won't do it anymore.
I'm gonna get there in just a second too. They're speedy on me. Everybody clear on how we get to the income number?
Yes.
Alright, so to answer Gary's question, because that one's next in line. An income rider is going to guarantee 2 things, but only one at a time. Alright, so we either have guarantees on our growth or on our income. Not both. Alright, so while we're in a deferred state, so let's say you got a client that's 57 years old. You put them into an annuity with an income rider. That income rider compounds until they retire. And then they retire. What do people typically want to do when they retire? Find another way to get paid. How are we going to do that? Income. So I'm going to shift from growth to income. In other words, I'm going to initiate the benefit from that income rider. I've gotten my guaranteed deferred growth. Now I'm ready to receive my guaranteed payments.
Right.
With me? So I either got guaranteed growth or I get guaranteed income. The IAV is irrelevant once you start taking income because your number has already been calculated. Unless you plan on stopping it, it's done. It's paying you and will always pay you forever. However, based on our previous conversation about annuitizations, right? We said the big problem there is if somebody wanted to go back in and get their money, they couldn't because it was gone. It's not the case with an income rider. That cash value is still there. Okay? So what do we know about annuities? We know that they always give us the ability to access 10% per year without penalty, right? And on my previous example where I had $140,000 and a payout rate of 5%, if I'm taking 5% and I say, man, I need some extra cash, could I go in and get some extra cash?
Yes.
Yes.
And how much could I get?
Another 5%.
Get another 5%. Alright, so we already calculated that that was 7,000. We were saying that that was based on a value of 125, so 10% is 12.5. So I could get 67.50. Right? I did my math wrong. Close enough. You guys get the idea, right? Alright, so it's not an irrevocable situation. We still have the ability to access money. Guess what's happening in the background? Remember that fixed index annuity we attached that rider to? It's still doing its thing. It's still growing. Market goes up, we go up. Market goes down, we stay flat.
And that's along with the guaranteed growth, right?
Growth on my income.
On your
account.
income. I mean, no, excuse me, on your cash value.
That is the growth of my cash value. Market goes up, we go up. Market goes down, we stay flat.
Gotcha, okay, I got you.
So my cash value grows by way of the market. Okay? My income account value grows by way of whatever product I chose.
Right,
In this particular case, 6%.
okay.
Alright?
Yeah, I got it.
So you got two different numbers growing at the same time
I got you.
at different rates for different reasons.
You know I'm trying to,
Lock it in. That's
Yeah.
what these are for. So we good there?
yeah.
So it's not an irrevocable situation. My cash value still gets to grow. I have the ability to continue my income account value growing, or I can take my guaranteed income payment. Right? Let's say I hit the lotto. I don't need $583 a month anymore. All it's going to do is jack my taxes up. I can stop an income rider. I can cease receiving payments from it. So you know what, my situation changed. What I thought I needed 5 years ago, I don't need it anymore. I'm balling now. Right? I can turn it off. I can let that money grow, tax deferred, leave it to the family. All's well. Make sense? You guys see how this gives us a lot more flexibility when it comes to income planning? Why this is so much more in favor of your client's best interest than what I explained to you before I started talking about income riders? Can you see how readily this could be misconstrued and misexplained? Everybody's smiling. Well, for you. I love them to death and I hate beating people up in their absence. Randy Harvey is the worst violator of misunderstanding and misrepresenting this concept. I love it.
Delete that from the video.
Keep it on the video. I'm not going to say anything in front of this group that I'm not going to have repeated to them, and I'll tell them that myself. Yeah, if I hear any of you guys selling an annuity to your client and touting a guaranteed 6% return, I'm not going to let you submit the application. Because you just lied to your client. Nobody's paying 6% right now, just so you're aware. If we get 2.5, we're killing it. Alright?
Ain't getting fired?
Hmm?
Ain't getting fired?
I don't know, we'll see what the market does, Oscar. Okay.
I'm riding you on.
So how do you explain that to your client and actually get them to understand? Any ideas?
I have someone that can come in and talk to you.
Can I give you an easy way to explain?
Go ahead.
I'm going to stay with the American Equity product since it's probably the most readily discussed. I like to use what I call a T-graph. Huh? Oh, yeah. I was like, what? Wait, no. So I do this and say, we're talking about investing $100,000 for you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Okay. So if I tell you you're going to have two different values growing simultaneously, you understand that I didn't create another $100,000 that magically became yours. Is that right? That's right. Does anybody really believe that this extra pot of 100 grand just showed up out of nowhere? Look, clients will ask you that. Please say no. Okay? So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and I have adopted the income account factor, even though the companies want to call it a value. I strongly recommend using the term factor, okay? It will keep your confusion at a minimal level. So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we've got two different values growing simultaneously. And like I told you with that cash value, and you guys all already did my neat little chart presentation, right?
Yes.
Market goes up, we go up, market drop, we stayed level, zero is my hero, right? Retain my gains. So that's exactly what's happening with your cash value all the time, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. So we're gonna take your 100 grand, and I told you were gonna get a 10% bonus up front, right? So now we got 110,000. Well, guess what? If your cash gets a bonus, your income account factor gets a bonus. So both of them are starting at 110K. Everybody clear so far? That's the last time that happens. Okay? Because now, whatever happens on your cash value side, and like I said, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we like to track the S&P 500. So this account, this cash value, is going to grow by the performance of the S&P 500, right? This one, I told you you're going to get guaranteed 6%, right? So this is what's happening. Okay? And for the purpose of using true numbers, let's go ahead and do that math real quick. So after 1 year, your income account factor will be worth 116,600. Not bad, right? That was a year. You started with 100, right? We're going to calculate your income payments off 116,600. Now, if the market performs, let's give the market a 3.5% return, all right? Let's keep it in the realm of reason. Your cash value would be valued at 113,850. Okay?
Where does the 0.95%, where does that show up?
It's going to come off of here, but for the purpose of having this conversation, I don't talk about it here. I want people to understand what's happening numerically. Theoretically, it's going to get subtracted from that 113,850. Okay? Because the other thing's not a real number, right? So we can't subtract it from nothing. It's got to come off the real number. Okay? So, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, after 1 year, the S&P netted us a return of 3.5%, takes our cash value to 113,850. Our income account value is going to be valued at 116,600. Now, let's imagine, here comes another 2008, market did zero. Market actually did a negative 45%. We got zero, right? Zero is my hero. Retain my gain. Still at 113,850. My income account factor, oop, too many sixes. My income account factor is going to grow by, what I tell you is going to grow by, Mr. and Mrs. Jones? 6%. 123,596. So let's just say after 2 years I'm ready to start taking income. What number are we going to use? That seems better than that 113,850, doesn't it? Is there any reason to make this any more complicated? This is as straightforward as it gets. Okay? Are there any questions about that?
Yeah, when do they only once a year analyze the market?
Yes, sir. Fixed index annuities track the market for a 365-day term. And at the end of that 365-day term, determine what kind of yield was created. You knew that already.
Is this the 14-year annuity you're talking about?
It's actually a 16-year annuity, but
16,
yes.
so at the end of 16 years, they either re-up or else they just take their cash value.
Correct. If you're taking all the way through its surrender schedule and you haven't initiated income payments, you're going to walk with the cash. All right? It's that
But
simple.
then that's almost like a shot in the butt for having an income rider if you're not gonna cut it off.
Yes, exactly,
You spend a .95 a year for
correct.
nothing. Unless the stock market goes really crappy, then you can still take your income to loss.
Correct.
That's why you need to find out what they wanna do with it, what the purpose of it is.
Correct.
But can we just give them the IAF if they decide they wanna walk off?
No.
No.
It's not real. It's not real. That's your monopoly money.
So,
Yes.
at the end of the day, and I use this in the house as well, what's the real difference between these two figures? And how do we know which number is gonna be used? It's all about distribution. How are we taking the money out? So you can do it like this. If I want penalty-free withdrawals, I'm coming over here. Teresa's been in a few presentations with him. If I die, I'm coming over here. If I surrender my account, I'm coming over there. That's it. Does not need to be any more complex than that. But if you can get your client to actually pay attention to what you're saying to them, and we need them to pay attention to it because we're not giving them this cash. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Do you guys believe that you can duplicate that? Why not?
It's easy.
It's a lot easier to watch you do it.
Well, I'm happy to come in and do it for you, but this is about professional growth.
Dave, how long does a 6% roll go ahead and
Until the end.
Depends. This one's 5 years with an option for another 5. They have others that'll go for life, others that go for 10 with an option for another 10. I mean, those types of questions are really product specific and company specific. That particular one with American Equity is 5 plus 5.
The IAF only grows with the rider. It doesn't accumulate the increase in the.
We're not adding it on top of the 6%. So if the rider did 6 and the income account value did 3.5, we didn't get 9.5 on the rider. What can possibly happen, and it is very, 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 very rare, is that the market outperforms the rider. And if that should happen, most of your carriers will allow a step up so that they will be equivalent numbers. So if the market kicked out more than 6%, when we get down to the road, the client's ready to start taking their income payment. If that cash value is higher than that income account factor, they will still base the income off of the higher of the two.
Based on the strategy that they chose, right? If they had a annual point to point, and it was capped at 3, and the market went up 7, they're not going to give them 7.
Sure. I'm talking like, I put it all in the monthly cap and I hit a 20% return. Yay! We just torched the rider. I've seen it happen maybe 4 times in my career. I've been in this business since 2004. So it's not a very regular thing, but it is possible. No, she's just got nothing. We clear on this?
And does, if you change over to the lifetime income, and you start the income, does the 0.9% keep going, or does it stop and do that?
We're gonna keep paying. The only way we stop paying on the 0.95% is if we terminate the rider. Most companies will give a client the opportunity to do that once every 5 years. So if you wanted to say, I don't need this income, but I like the annuity, after 5 years we can write a letter of instruction to the company to terminate the rider, charge stuff. I'm going to be really honest with you, by and large, 99% of the annuities that we're selling these days, we're selling because of what the riders need. Because the expectation that the market's going to perform truly isn't there, even though it is, and fixed interest rates are garbage. So how else are people going to maximize the leverage and the potential of the money that they've saved to support them in retirement, unless we use programs that give us the ability to do this kind of thing? That's really what it's about. How do we maximize the oomph?
And that's the whole competitive landscape anyway.
Yeah. Everybody makes their riders different. Some will give you, that's the other thing when we're looking at annuities, some companies are using income account factor bonuses as opposed to actual premium bonuses. American Equities, that's 10% straight up on your cash. Phoenix, on the other hand, they use an income account factor bonus. If you use their, it's called a personal income annuity, they'll tack 30% on the front side, but only on that IEF. So you put in 100 grand, cash is still 100 grand, IEF 130. Huh?
It's not real.
It's not real, but if they need income, it really gives me the ability to get them there faster.
If they're making income within the next few years, it's better to do that.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it goes back to exactly what you said and what I always preach to you guys all the time. What is the purpose of your money? What am I needing to accomplish for you so that I can help choose the right program to help you get there? Isn't that what it's about anyway? You guys getting hot yet?
Teresa's like,
It is gonna get hot sooner or later. So you guys hear us talk about death benefit riders and long-term care benefits in conjunction with these types of programs, right? Any idea how that all mixes together?
are some riders or some incorporated into the product?
Well, theoretically, the rider's incorporated in the product. So, yes. Let me help you out.
Yes.
You guys are asking very simple questions with very complex answers. So if I give you a smart ass answer, I apologize. Alright, so let's just go with the long-term care piece, alright? Because the death benefit thing is all over the map. So we'll stick with the long-term care piece. So if I've got, I'll stick with American Equity, we'll just stay with that one, okay? Won't jump around on you, won't fall asleep, James. If I gotta have fun, man. This is just numbers.
Yes.
Sort of. So, alright, so I'm coming back to my initial example, right? 140K, we said our payout rate was 5%, right? So what happens if my client cannot perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living? And we use this right.
Double. After the 5 years.
Well, why does it double?
Pay for it, right? Pay for the.
Because we have the rider. But did they just say, oh, you couldn't get 7 grand, so we're just going to give you 14? What's actually happening is they're going to double the payout rate. Okay? So I like to explain it to clients like this. If you're taking income under healthy pretenses, you're going to get this payout rate as it's stated in your contract. Based on your age at that particular time, we said it was 5%, which equated to $7,000. Okay? If you need income due to the fact that you can't perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living without assistance, the company understands that you're going to need more access to your money, that your bills are going to increase because of the care that you require. So they're willing to pay out at a rate double of what your original payout rate was to help you offset some of those costs.
It's still guaranteed for life?
So, and again, I want you guys to be real about this. This is 140K. Seems like a reasonably big number, right? What is the average cost of long-term care?
6 grand a month.
70 to 80 grand in the state, right? That's 14,000 bucks. Yay. It's better than 7. Certainly not 80. The reason I'm bringing that up, guys, is because I don't want you guys to get into your mind that if we write an annuity with an income rider that's got that long-term care feature on it, that we just hit a home run and they don't have any concerns for long-term care. Quite wrong. Long-term care is still important. This is a good means to supplement other plans. I like to call this the home health care plan. You use your existing income that you've got. You're already getting this, we're gonna kick it up to that. So now we've got extra money coming in to help you offset some of those increases in monthly expenses. It's a much more realistic approach to think of something like that as opposed to taking that money and trying to pay all your bills to go to a nursing home, skilled nursing facility. Okay? It's just not there. If you're writing $500,000, okay, maybe. If you're writing 100 grand, it's a drop in the bucket. Okay? But it's important to people. A lot of people really like the idea, specifically for people that aren't going to use that money for something else. Let it go, let it grow. Compound until your heart's content. Hope you don't ever need it. Alright? So Sean, to go back to your question, man, I'm sorry. Go back to your question. Most companies say this will go on for 5 years. After 5 years, if you are still alive, they'll revert back to the original income payout rate. So we would drop back from 10, go back to 5. Our income would switch back to that 7,000. But that 7,000 is still guaranteed for life.
And a question on top of that, say you only need the 15,000 for like 2 years, do you still have
Stop.
an additional 3 years that you can use later on?
Yeah, I would stop it because again, any withdrawals that you've got coming out, you're going to be decreasing that account value, so yes. And again, the question I think that you're asking is more company specific. Some companies would allow you to start and stop and restart. Other companies say, we'll give you up to 5 years one time. So again, it's always important for us to make sure that we are aware of, exactly how the company wrote the language for their rider. Like I said, I was trying to give you guys kind of a generic feel for how this stuff works. Each of those would almost require its own training to go into the real specifics of all those different products. Okay? You guys clear on this? Clearer on this? Does it make any more sense than when you walked in the room? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Not as that bad.
I got 5 minutes till 3. I'm not going in.
It's gonna take him another hour to go through that thing.